Hey, you guys, welcome to another day in the life with Ali. This is my digital nomad digest. Where's Ali? So, you guys, today, the sun went away. Today, I am sitting on my balcony, just enjoying a little bit of the fresh air out here and enjoying my space in my apartment. It is Sunday afternoon here in Tanzania, and I wanted to go live, y'all, or not live, but do a video. I wanted to talk about something specific, but I've been like literally on all these gnats just came. Y'all remember Kung Fu Theater? Anyway, y'all, today I'm going to be talking about, there's a couple things I want to talk about, but today's topic is going to be, what does it mean when people say live like a local when you are traveling or you're considering moving abroad? What does it mean when people say live like a local? We're going to get into that. All right, you guys, so, literally, I feel like, the last few days, maybe it's been the last few weeks. Y'all, first of all, y'all know how I am. If you don't know me, you're going to learn that I am I'll be like, here's starting position. I'll be like, then I come back. Sometimes I need help to come back, but I get all over the place. But anyway, first I want to say, it is July, y'all. Today is July 4th, where I am. Oh, it's July 4th in my world. This year has gone by so fast. Y'all, if I can't stress and plead with you, I wish somebody would have done this with me. I wish somebody would have came and said, you know what, don't follow the same traditional path that you see everybody else following. Get up and live your life. Like, you have to follow a certain path to be, kind of accepted. And, that's going to be a whole nother topic. I definitely want to talk about those kinds of things, the things that we feel we have to do in order to be accepted in our families, in society, at our jobs, in church, if we go into church, at the neighborhood supermarket, at the PTA meetings, all of this stuff. And I'm here to say that you can be you. And one of the things that occurred to me is this time is just flying by crazy. There is something happening in this universe. I don't know if the stars and the earth and the planets are turning faster or what's happening, but something is happening. And how they say things are timeless. Things are timeless, and we really can't afford to waste any of our precious time. Your time is precious. And I just think of the things that I didn't do or passed on doing because they didn't really align with where I was going, who I was around. Circles and people that you spend time with make a huge difference. So as I'm out here in this world and making new friends and new connections and things like that, and realizing that there are a lot of people who live like I do or want to live like I do, but I wasn't really surrounded by that. And so I say that to make this is why it's so important for you to figure out what it is that you want, or even if you can't figure it out, to start following those dreams and those desires, those types of things, within reason and lawfully, y'all, early, before you get caught in the matrix and it takes you forever to your 48, 49 to get out of the matrix. All right, so y'all, we're gonna get out of that. And let's get into the topic. Let's talk about, what does it mean when somebody tells y'all, listen, to live like a local. So, I'm in 544 travel groups. Just did a travel summit a week ago. If you guys didn't catch that, you could catch it on the rewind. If you need it, please comment and I will share it with you. I've got a couple videos. I've got my discussion that I talked about, which is actually emotional health, y'all, which is so important. It is not taboo anymore to talk about your mental health, so we need to be talking about it. And so I talk about it from a travel perspective and how to kind of work through some of those things. But I'm in these groups, and people ask all the time, what does it cost to live there? Oh my God, y'all doing it? Oh my God, how do y'all do this? How do y'all live places? And I always hear someone say, live like a local. And being that I have been living abroad almost a year, y'all, it's been 11 months, 349 days, something like that, something to that effect. Almost 12 months I've been out of the year, which is crazy. Out of the year, out of the States. It's crazy, with the exception of 1 week. And I consider that was like a vacation to go back to the States. So I hear people say this all the time. Live like a local, live like a local. And it could be in a group that is very general. So it could be in a Blacksit group, it could be in an expat or repatriate group for like any country, any continent. And so, I started to ponder, what does that mean? One of the things I hear all the time, people start to show cost of living platforms that will give you like a breakdown of where you're living now, or certain cities in the States compared to places all over the world. And they gotta give you a breakdown of things to buy at the grocery store, hotel prices, what it's like to cost for eating out, housing, electricity, things like that, right? And so that's all well and good, and I'm listening, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, this is good information. But I realize it still doesn't tell you anything. It still doesn't tell you what that means to live like a local. I'm gonna give you guys an example. Because we watch YouTube videos, we have all of these groups, and constantly people telling us these blanket statements, and even I, like I said, me living abroad, I'm still trying to figure out what do people mean. So the first thing I'm gonna tell you guys to do is ask questions. Ask these people specifically, what do you mean when you say that? And the reason I'm gonna say this is because when I got to Africa, when I got to East Africa over, I'm in Tanzania. One of the things that I actually noticed, like right out the gate in December when I was in Zanzibar, was that the locals live right next door to these established apartments and resorts. Like literally, they got houses right here. Or you're living in these high rises and you look out the window and there's local housing, locals living in what they live in. And some of that's a high and a lot of it's a low, because it kind of makes you feel like, wow, so this is apartment just put right here, this huge high rise is right here, and right next door are, shacks and people who probably don't have, some people don't have the electricity. I live next to some people that they didn't have electricity in their area, and they were literally right in this courtyard right next to them. There was another building. It was really interesting. So anyway, when people say live like a local or live where locals live, I want to know what that means, because the reason I say this is because what's the one thing everybody wants to know? How cost effective is it? Is it going to save me any money? Because one thing we don't want to do is leave a place because of the cost. A lot of people want to leave the States because of the cost. A lot of people want to leave the States because of police brutality, because of the injustice system that we have. And the things I will tell you right out the gate, I never experienced any police issues here. I mean, they do pull people over for crazy reasons, and that's just like a random thing, but never have I felt uncomfortable just walking these streets, walking by police, walking back, so I've never experienced what I experience in the States in other places, right? So we leave for different reasons. We want to leave for different reasons, And so, first, I always say, think about why it is you want to leave. What your reasons for going? And if it's for price, get an understanding of what price means. What that breaks down to. You can't look at charts. You need boots on the ground. And I talk about how to do some of these things in my YouTube, a couple YouTube videos, as well as my summit discussion that I had for DMV 50 a week or so ago. So Like I said, if you guys want any of those videos, you want to see any of that, please let me know and I'll direct you hopefully to a place where you can get those links on my YouTube or outside of YouTube. So anyway, I'm gonna go to my little list, you guys. There's a couple things that I think you should ask when it comes to what does living like a local mean. So number one, where do locals actually live and how accessible is it? So when people say that, like here in Tanzania, you could be living right next to a local, but in a lot of cases, what people really mean is don't live in like areas that are heavily populated. They mean live off the grid. They mean live in the bush, live in Timbuktu. Beautiful houses, more cost effective. But what comes with living outside of the populated area? That's what we want to talk about. So yeah, you can go from spending $3,500 right around the corner from me for an apartment. Yes. Well, not right around the corner, like 15 minutes up the road. For an apartment, yes, you could spend that much money. Or you could go 45 minutes inland and get a 5-bedroom house with a garden and actually you can also find some of the stuff in these populated areas, and I think it's because of the time and things being vacant for so long, people are lowering prices, so do your homework. But what does it actually mean when they say, go and find something that is more cost effective? One, where are you going to be? Do you have kids with you? Do you have any issues with moving around? Is accessibility important to you? Also, one of the things I always say is what are you paying now? So for me, like one of the things that I noticed is like people would say, oh, it's so much cheaper, it's so much cheaper. And if we're talking about sometimes comparably rent to rent, it might not be. I am a very conservative person, and my housing in the States for what I have is on par with what a lot of people. Of course, there's a car that pulls up right here, you guys. So, living in certain places, it might not be cheaper than like when we talk housing to housing. So you got to look at what's included, what's added on. So sometimes Airbnb seems super expensive, but like maybe that Airbnb has your internet included, it has your water, it has all those things. So is it comparable? Is it exact amount or is it less? So you want to actually compare those things. So how much are you paying now for housing, power, whether it's electric or gas or both, water, internet, food, your basic necessities. Those are the basic things that you need. Add those things up for your current location, and then as you're searching, then you can do some comparisons. Then I'm going to add a couple little things like I was talking about, things that you have to have when you relocate. So those are important questions to ask. Like, what is it that you actually need? So when you relocate, maybe you don't want to be out, you don't want to be entertained. Maybe you have your family, you got your husband, your wife, your friends, whatever, and you're good. You could be off the beaten path. You got everything you need. That's perfect. But a lot of people are coming solo. A lot of people are maybe coming with friends or just coming with families, and they're not with significant others, and so they actually do want to get out, or they might be with people and you actually like to go to a comedy show, or you want to go see a movie, or there's different things that you actually want to do. And so understanding what it is that you have to have, and those aren't things that you have to have, of course, but sometimes when you're relocating, you don't want to relocate and not be able to do some of the things that you actually enjoy doing, right? Some people would say, well, you're not changing, you ain't doing, but we got to be realistic, Okay, so what does that mean? It means that potentially you're going to have to consider how to move around, how close you are, proximity-wise, what types of resources are available in those places that can get you from point A to B. So let's get back to what living like locals. So people also say you need to eat like locals. Don't be, going to restaurants all the time. I second that. I get it. One of the things that I find here that is actually kind of helps facilitate eating more like locals, which I actually don't eat like locals because locals here love meat and I don't eat meat. But for the most part, you can find a vegetable stand pretty much anywhere around here. And it can be super super inexpensive, or it can be super super expensive depending on where you go. And you can, for the most part, you can for the most part almost forego going to a grocery store. Buy fruits, vegetables, rice, pasta, beans, spices, things like that in local areas. So you go to the local shop, get your whole bag, right from there. And then, like, right where I live, there's like 15 butcher shops, like right in the corner. There's like a butcher's alley. And so you can get all your meat and stuff like that as well. And it's cheaper to buy it from them than it is to go to the grocery store where it's been packaged, all of those things. So I agree wholeheartedly with that. I don't actually have, well, let me see. I can give you kind of some examples of going to the store versus finding a substitute or something like that locally. So, for instance, I can go to a local grocery store, like they have places called Shoppers or Target, or not like our Target. It ain't Target, it's Target. Village supermarkets, garden hubs, garden markets, stuff like that, whatever. But you go and let's say you want your carbs, so you want some quinoa. So you can buy quinoa in the package, and quinoa in the package might cost you upwards of 45,000 T shillings, which breaks down to $20 for a pack of quinoa. And I mean like a little. Or you can go to their bulk areas, which is just like our Whole Foods, and you can buy it in bulk. Or, and even that is more expensive, but it's still cheap. It's pretty cheap because quinoa don't weigh nothing. Get it from a local store, hub that has all the grains and stuff, and you might find it a couple hundred T shillings less, right? And so things like that. Your fruits, like pineapples, might be super expensive, or seem super expensive. So if we're not comparing dollars to T shillings, so for example, I think a good pineapple is 3,000 T shilling. That's about a dollar, $1.25, something like that, for a nice big pineapple, right? Like, that's fantastic. At the grocery store, it might be about 4,000 to 6,000. So buying it off the street or buying it from one of these hubs that grocery shop for you is more cost efficient. Since I've been here, so I can't give you guys that. Maybe I'll do that one day and share it with you guys what the cost is. I do know that a friend of mine, when she was here, she bought some lamb chops that were like 4,000 T shillings, and it was 4 lamb chops, and they were pretty decent sized lamb chops as well. She bought 4 packs, and they were like 4,000 T shillings, which is about $2, right? So that's like a little price comparison. So eat like a local. Go back to my list. I'm trying to stay on target. Understanding data and Wi-Fi uses and access in the area that you're moving to. So a lot of people don't have wired data lines in their houses, right? And so that means you have to buy data packages for your phone and hotspot it. How much does that cost, right? So you're adding that in. And then how reliable is it? So if you're coming over and you're on your work visa, business visa, whatever it is, and you need to be on a Zoom call or some sort, you're throttling and it's doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, you got access, yeah, you can buy it, but it's not up to par. So you want to kind of compare those things, because this is the thing: you can live like a local, but it may not be sufficient for maintaining and sustaining your life and or your job. Because some people say, well, you need to quit your job if you're going to move and truly live, but you still got to be able to sustain. You still have to be able to make money some kind of way, right? And not all places are easy to go and find a job, especially if you're going to take a job from a local, right? Understand their power grid and water storage situation. So you want to make sure you get to a place that has a water tank on the premises for your unit, as well as preferably you want a generator on site. And then you also want to, like, how often does power go in and out? Most places when you rent, they'll tell you power never goes out, and power can go out every single day, right? And that makes a difference. Another big thing with talking about living like locals is, how do you cook? How do they cook? So we're in the States, we're used to gas lines or electricity. Well, power is going out all the time. you lose electricity. So you cook around it, right? You figure out how to work around that. But the nice thing is you can have gas here. And they don't have underground gas lines like we're used to. At least I don't know if they have it in different areas, but I'm in an expat area, and you get canisters of gas. So that means that's really nice. You're never tied to any outage. So you can cook, you can actually have lighting, whatever you need to do. So those are things to kind of pay attention to as well. And then healthcare. A lot of places it's actually cheaper than in the US. And I know a lot of people are always concerned, do I have to worry about their doctors and stuff? And I'm going to tell you something. It's very easy to simply say, you know what, if you go get healthcare in the United States and you can get healthcare anywhere, that's almost kind of true, because we never know what kind of treatment we're going to get. There's so many variables, but most people trust the United States healthcare system. And so you want to be comfortable with where you're going and what that means. And there's some places you can get like your health care and they don't honor it. They still want cash, and then you have to go and try to figure that all out, right? One of the places I do know that is pretty open to people coming, they require you to have additional health care before you get there, and I think that's Costa Rica. And so that could be expensive. You could be adding an extra $400, upwards of 100 extra or 150 extra dollars a month if you're on like World Nomad or something like that to your expense. And so let's say you got a family of 4. Now you just tack that on, right? And so should living like a local also mean that you're not protected with healthcare? Because I know quite a few locals here that don't actually have healthcare. So what does that mean? So when people say that to you, I want you to challenge them to explain exactly what they mean. Because one of the things I also realize is that a lot of times people just throw out their scenarios without really thinking about everybody doesn't or is not in the same situation as you. So for example, single men who travel a lot and anywhere, mainly Caucasian men, but also black men, your experience and your ability to move around more freely is a lot different than it is for people with families and or single women moving around this globe, right? There's different things and dynamics that we have to think about. So when we talk about living like locals, you have to think about who you're giving this advice to. I already mentioned that houses are not always as cheap as you think when you go to different places, and I've shared that with you guys in some instances. And one other thing is moving around. Like one of the things I was talking about, depending on where you live, like let's say you decide to live off the cuff somewhere. Does it make more sense for you to buy a car? If you know you're relocating, you're done, you ain't going back to the States, you might need to get a car, or you have to have a driver. What is more cost effective and efficient? Is it a place where you feel comfortable driving? Here they drive on the opposite side of the street and the opposite side of the car than we do in the US. For UKers, they're used to this. They're used to being on the right side of the car and the left side of the street. And so being used to those kinds of things and understanding that when you come here, they have lights and stuff, but people just do all kinds of stuff, and you have to be able to function in that. And so then also having car insurance, which I still hear is cheaper here than it is in the States. But that may not be the case everywhere you go. So I say, do your homework for the specific areas that you're talking about or hearing people talk about, because one of the biggest fallacies is grouping everything into this one bucket, that everything is cheaper, everything is better, everything is more politically free in different places, and you don't have all of these other types of oppression type things. That is not true. And so I can't stress enough to go and visit as much as you can. Do as much homework as you can. But I'm going to tell you, everybody's experiences are slightly different. And what you need, if you have not jotted down on your piece of paper what it is that you require in order to be comfortable, I don't care what anybody calls it. Because the other thing I'm going to tell you is my upstairs neighbors, and I think my downstairs neighbors, because there's only 3 apartments, are all locals. They're locals. They living in the same building as me. So we can't sit and think that everybody is living off in the bush somewhere. Everybody ain't doing that, right? And so, you have to kind of want to do and visit and see and seek and research for you, not because someone can give you the inspiration to get up and move. let us be the inspiration for you to do that. But don't let that be the one all be all. So my last tip is if you get somewhere, if you're going somewhere, try to have, some people say this is a positive and some people say this is a negative, and that is to have a backup just in case you have to move around. I'm not saying move back to the States or wherever you came from. What I'm saying is you may find that your dream or your first stop isn't what you thought it would be, after you did a week or two here, or in that location, or maybe you even stayed for a month and now you're ready to just turn everything over. Y'all, I'm telling you, being in a place for months and months, 6 months, is way different than visiting. Visiting a place, even if you stay in the rundowns, it's still different because you got to get up and live it every single day, and we're not all made to do that. It might take more time for you to adjust to change. Change isn't always easy, and change doesn't happen overnight. Whether it's a mindset, whether it's behavior, expectations, just different things that we do. Even if you want to, I'm like, man, I'm about to do this, I'm gonna stop doing this. Habits, things like that don't change overnight just because you want them to. You have to work at it. These have to be things that you are willing to put in some time and mental effort and thought around these things that you've decided to do. And so it's no different than any other task that you set up for yourself. And so just keep that in mind, you guys. Anytime you're talking about relocating, that's a big deal. It is major, major, major. So don't take it like a grain of salt, and when you're ready to do it, don't let anybody talk you out of doing it. Just have the appropriate tools that you need in order to be semi-successful when you start, at the very least, because we all have failures, y'all. I done had mine. If I could go back and redo some things, I would do so many things different, and I'm even somewhat a little bit, I felt like, well versed in some areas, but every place you go to is literally different, and each city that you go to can be and function differently. And so I just want you guys to be prepared for those kinds of things and understand what people are saying, because even I sometimes am confused when someone says live as a local. I don't know what they're meaning, or if they're assuming that all local people live in the bush somewhere. It is not true. Don't ever come to that conclusion or assumption that that's what someone is talking about. There are some people that live here that are more Western, that are locals, that are more Western than I am. Like, they are like bougie. And so understand what a person means when they say that, right? Because you might get somewhere and be like completely struck, like, I didn't expect it to be like this. I didn't think it was going to be so expensive, or I didn't allocate for this because I don't pay for this in the States, and now here this is something I have to do, or I have to allocate time to do it. So make sure you do your homework, do your research. You guys know the drill. I appreciate you guys always being here, supporting me, following my channel and the things that I'm doing. Y'all, I'm gonna be on a platform doing some yoga coming up here soon. I've got something I'm going to be preparing this week, working on some testing, so I have another video for that, and hopefully some product very soon. So, you guys, I appreciate you as always. You guys can like, subscribe, and share. You can donate to my channel and to my exploration movement as well. I so appreciate you liking, subscribing, and commenting and sharing as often as you can. You guys know the drill. I'm going to get out of here. Toodles and noodles. Peace and hair grease.